dig up a past I swore would stay buried.
You will always be a monster.
Ares! I have nothing more to hide.
The ghost of Sparta had been born.
In the new God of War DLC, which is amazing, by the way, go watch my review about it if you haven't already, we learn that after Kratos' destruction of the Greek pantheon, Greece was rebuilt.
Infamous act, one they still spoke of in the years of rebuilding.
This is very interesting since there were a few things said in God of War Ragnarok that suggested Greece was completely destroyed, gone to a point of no return. For example, when Odin talked about Greece in the past tense, implying that it no longer exists.
My son is not your key.
Oh, God, do they not have metaphor in your homeland? Or rather, did they? I'm sorry, that's not fair. I know you're not the god you once were. And now is your chance to prove it.
Return my son, or you may meet the god I once was.
Or when Freya was talking to Kratos about Kratos having lost his Greek powers, such as the magic to summon Poseidon's rage, the army of Sparta, the thunderbolts of Zeus, Atlas's quake, or even the army of Hades, explaining that Kratos possibly no longer has the ability to summon that sort of magic since his homeland was destroyed.
Brother, I've been meaning to ask. Your homeland. I'd heard the gods there wielded every flavor of power you could imagine. Lightning, fire, the whole lot.
As did I, for many years.
Oh, any chance you could recall some of that magic?
No, I have tried.
Magic is bound to the earth. When your homeland died, your powers probably went with it.
Well, probably for the best. Let the past stay in the past and all that.
This begs the question, if now we know that Kratos' homeland is not destroyed and very much still exists after years of rebuilding, why can't Kratos summon his Greek powers anymore, especially since it is implied in the DLC that the power of hope Kratos acquired from Pandora's box all those years ago are still in his possession.
When the evils of the box were purged, what remained was hope, which you chose to release back to the world.
Yes. After everything, you came back full circle to sacrificing yourself.
My death would have been just, but it was not to be.
Yes, you lived, and hope still lived inside you, from that day to this one. One might say you brought hope back to these realms after a long slumber. Box or no box, Kratos. Hope and fear and love and hate exist in every one of us. The question is, which will you choose to let guide your actions?
Before we get into it, I just want to clarify that I had already theorized in the past that the reason Kratos can't summon his old magic is not because Greece was gone, otherwise the Blades of Chaos would have been powerless as well. And now that this DLC is out, once again I am proven right. Anyway, so if Kratos' homeland is alive and thriving, why can't Kratos summon his old powers? My friends, the answer to that question is a simple one. Let me enlighten you. Kratos was born with a power that is easily overlooked, a power that a lot of us glance over, a power that in reality is what makes Kratos as strong as he is, and that power is his powers of absorption. It is this ability that makes Kratos overpowered. Think about it. How was Kratos able to beat full gods while he was a mere demigod? How did he beat beings like Hades and Zeus? How? He absorbs the power, health, and magic, or in other words, red, green, and blue orbs of his enemies. Every opponent he kills makes him more powerful. In every battle, no matter how outmatched he is, he gets stronger while his rivals are weakened. Kratos stuns his more powerful enemies and then absorbs energy from them. They get weaker and weaker, and Kratos gets stronger and stronger until his enemies inevitably die. This is also why we see Kratos become weakened when his powers are drained by the Blades of Olympus, the River Styx, and the Forsaken Tree. You can't claim that Kratos losing his powers and gaining them in the form of red, green, and blue orbs is not canon and that it's just a game mechanic, since the novels prove otherwise. Kratos can drain the life force and magic energies and abilities of his opponents on contact with them with just his bare hands without needing his blades of chaos to do so, as seen in Chains of Olympus when he killed the Persian king with his bare hands and absorbed the Persian mythological powers of the Ifrit. Kratos did this again when he absorbed his godly powers by physically killing souls in Elysium with his bare hands while having stripped himself of all of his equipment and powers at the Forsaken Tree in Chains of Olympus, and being rendered completely human. And this isn't just me making stuff up here. This theory is supported by the Versus Battle fandom and the God of War wiki. You might mention that this ability to absorb powers was actually something that only the Blades of Chaos could do, as stated in the original God of War novel, but that's not true. In the next novel, there are many instances of Kratos absorbing the energy of his enemies and himself having his energy absorbed by others without the Blades of Chaos. Many Greek creatures and gods also had the ability to absorb the powers of others, like how Zeus could absorb health from Gaia's heart, or how only the Greek creatures in Valhalla can absorb powers from Kratos. But Kratos' absorption powers are clearly much more powerful. But if that doesn't convince you, think about this. In God of War Ragnarok, Kratos acquires a weapon that was forged with his own blood. And what ability does that weapon have? It has the power of absorption. The Draupnir spear has the ability to absorb the magic of its enemies. The game describes it as siphoning. Elemental Siphon 1, where you hold R2 to siphon an enemy's element into the spear. These siphoned spears do elemental damage and can be thrown, impaled, and detonated. The element is lost when combat ends or a spear runic attack is used. Then there's also the Elemental Siphon 2, where using elemental siphons also provide resistance to the element siphoned. Okay, but then why doesn't Kratos absorb the power from his enemies the same way he did in Greece anymore? Well, he does. It's just that the recent game's dynamics use health and rage stones to showcase Kratos' absorption powers instead of orbs. It could also be that the magic within the Norse creatures are not free to float like Greek magic and are materialized into stones when are separated from their host. This would make sense since in the recent games when you fight certain enemies, they either periodically drop health and rage stones for Kratos to absorb or drop them when they die. With a Draupnir spear Brock and Sindri made for him, Brock and Sindri combine Kratos' ability to absorb magic with the spear so that he may be able to siphon his enemies' power and actually utilize those magical properties instead of simply absorbing them to fuel his own magic or health or rage. Anyway, my point is Kratos has the ability to absorb the magical properties of his enemies. In the old God of War games, Kratos used the powers he absorbed from his enemies to heal himself, upgrade his weapons, and most importantly, fuel his magic in the form of green, red, and blue orbs respectively. Neither Norse gods nor monsters have this power of absorption. Again, that is why in Valhalla, the Greek creatures are the only enemies capable of siphoning Kratos' power. They absorb Kratos' rage to fuel their own magic. That is why we even hear Mimir often calling the Greek creatures leeches and yelling at them to find their own power. But what does all this have to do with Kratos losing his Greek magical powers, you ask? I'll tell you. In God of War 2018 and Ragnarok, the enemies Kratos face don't have the right type of magic, blue orbs that would allow Kratos to fuel his Greek powers. That is the reason why Kratos can't summon his old magic. I mean, think about it. This whole time it wasn't just a game mechanic. In the old games, if Kratos didn't have blue orbs, Kratos couldn't use his Greek powers. The Greek gods were probably aware of this fact, and that is why they had chests with green and blue orbs everywhere, not for Kratos to steal, but for themselves. In God of War 1, there was even a whole room in Pandora's temple where Zeus would gift you with red, blue, and green orbs to encourage your journey if you had managed to find all the Muse keys. Kratos himself is a leech, and his absorption powers are stronger than even he himself believes. That is why he still possesses the power of hope after all these years. That is why he didn't lose his power of hope at the end of God of War 2 or 3. His power to absorb magic is so strong that once he's absorbed it, it's hard for him to let it go, even after channeling some of it into the Blade of Olympus and releasing most of it into the world. Kratos still has some of the power of hope locked deep within him. Don't believe me? Cory Barlog said it himself. Listen.
People say, oh, why didn't you name him Deimos? But I mean, you know, if you know the story of what's going on, that's a pretty painful memory for him. So to look at his son and say Deimos every time would be way too painful for him, I think, to keep bringing that up. And then he would never name it after a hero or a god. Like, he doesn't idolize any of them. But to idolize somebody that actually stayed positive, that had hope, right, is so antithetical to Kratos, but actually so much of giving you an insight into his inner life, right? That
Sure.
there is a desire, that little bit of hope that he didn't give to mankind, that he left inside of there, but locked way deep inside. So, but after that, the writers had come into my office and said, you know, I have an idea, I have a pitch. And the pitch they gave me was literally the exact line that we ended up using.
The power of hope is what allowed mankind to flourish without the rule of the Greek gods, as confirmed by Bruno. And it's also why Kratos' daughter has hopefully found peace in the fields of Elysium, why Elysium still exists in the first place, and why Kratos was more than happy to make that sacrifice at the end of God of War 3.
When I left Greece, Calliope was never far from my mind. I do not know how much time we would have had together in Elysium, but I would have traded the decades that followed for mere hours with her. It took meeting Faye for that feeling to go away, along with Calliope's song. But I do still think of her in Elysium, and hope she found peace.
Now, if you're asking me how Elysium, Helheim, Tartarus, and Valhalla all exist within the God of War universe, I already made a theory that explains how the different mythologies are separated, so if you're curious, go check that out. Anyway, there you have it. Shout out to Popsor, the first official Gimme God of War member of the ABD Bay community. I'm very grateful for your subscription. Popsor, you already probably had early access to this video as it is one of your perks. But hit me up if you would like to collab or join me on a live stream, or we could just chat or play a game of your choice. Also, if I could have your Instagram username, I would love to add you to the Gods of War Council group chat. Your comments will be my top priority as it is one of your perks as a Gimme God of War member of this channel. For anyone else who wants to dig into the membership perks of this channel, just click the join button down below to see the perks of each membership tier. Join the demigod status to gain access to the Gods of War Council, where we can discuss your theories, ideas, and more. Other than that, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell for more content just like this.